Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe im ChefTreff podcast, and I'm going to switch to English because my new guest is from France and he's a very cool entrepreneur and a very seasoned e-commerce person that I'm super happy to have him, the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Voggt. I hope I pronounce it properly.
You pronounce it very well.
Here on my show, it's Kevin Loiseau. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Sven. It's a pleasure being there and meeting you in this podcast.
Herzlich willkommen zu ChefTreff, dem Future Retail Podcast von Sven Rittau. Im Gespräch mit den Machern und Innovatoren der digitalen Handelsszene.
Zu Beginn eine kurze Werbung in eigener Sache. Nutze jetzt die Chance und sichere dir dein Ticket für die 11. K5 Future Retail Conference. Denn am 20. und 21. Juni 2023 warten in Berlin wieder 2 Mainstages, 3 Expo-Stages, jede Menge Networking-Formate und die spannendsten Personen des deutschsprachigen E-Commerce auf dich. Freu dich auf faszinierende Speaker wie Tina Müller, Johannes Kliesch, Vanessa Stützle oder Christoph Werner. Den Ticketshop, weitere Informationen und alle Speaker der K5 Future Retail Conference 2023 findest du unter konferenz.k5.de. Sichere dir jetzt dein Ticket. Wir freuen uns auf dich.
I think not many people might be aware of what you are trying to accomplish, and maybe you just can share for the start, like what is Voggt all about, and what's the idea behind it?
Yeah, of course. So Voggt is the first and the leading e-commerce platform for live shopping in Europe, and we're really focusing on enthusiast and collectors community. So what we basically do is we allow sellers to start live shows in which they present and they show items that they can sell to the public through auctions or through fixed price. And the real difference with a regular e-commerce platform is the live aspect of things. So it's kind of, they are displaying the item, they have the video, people can hear them, people can chat with them, and they can answer the questions before they sell the items. And that I think is really what we bring to the e-commerce scene. And so to give you a bit of a history, so we launched the company 2 years ago, like a bit less than 2 years ago. It was in June 2021. We launched it in France, and we focused at the very beginning about Pokemon cards. So it's a very niche community, but it was very important for us to start with the community because that's a very strong aspect of our business. Like you come to Voggt because you want to have fun through a live with people that are like-minded, that are, share your passion, and we had to start with one community. So we started with this one, and it really took off very fast. So then we expanded to other categories such as figurines, other trading card games, sneakers, and fashion. And we also expanded to other countries. So we launched the UK in May 2022. Then we launched Germany in mid-September 2022. Then 2 weeks after the Netherlands, and again 2 weeks after Spain. So now we're in 5 countries, and we are focusing on trading card games, sports cards, which is somehow similar to trading card games, but with the small tweaks, and fashion and sneakers. So again, the link between all of these categories is really this passion aspect of things, where people gather because they really like the product, they like to talk about it, they like to share knowledge, they want to know more about a specific item, a specific history of a pair of sneakers or a piece of garment, and that's super cool.
Mm-hmm. So it's more or less about products. From my understanding, is where you have a geekism. I don't know if you can say that. Like people who really dive deep into the product, the history, the manufacturer. And it's also about collectibles, right?
I think it's a mix of both, if I would say, because you have some sellers. Like most of the sellers are actually people who really know deeply about the product, but from a customer standpoint and from a viewer standpoint, you have a bit of everything. You have very, very specialized people who are very geek about some things, and you also have newcomers. And that I think is very interesting because this is all about, again, the community. When you enter this community on Voggt, you will be able to ask question to your peers on the chat or to the seller. It's like, oh, what is so special about this item? What does it cost this? I want to start collecting Japanese cards. Where should I start? What should I? All these kind of things that you wouldn't be able to find if you were going on a regular platform, right? If you open a website and you just have an infinite number of products, you don't know where to look at, and you have no one to ask too. And I think that's this, which works very well, is this mix of experts and neophytes that want to learn about their new hobby.
So, I mean, what triggered me and my interest here to bring you on this show is that I'm like super disappointed. Like when I look at e-commerce over the last 25 years, we call it lame commerce. So there was no real invention on the front end side, and what you bring back is gamification, is fun, is actually, because shopping is not a serious thing to do, right? Shopping is something should be fun, right? Is that what triggered you in the first place as well?
Exactly. I think it's very true what you were saying. When we think about e-commerce and all the improvement, for me it's like all the platforms have just been focusing on doing more of the same, but better. So like faster shipping, more payment methods, like more assortment, better search, but always focused on, I have a need and how can I, get it the fastest as possible. So of course, if I need toilet paper, I go on Amazon and like one click and I have it, right? And I have it delivered to my doorstep in like 2 hours, and that's amazing. But that's not really what we are about, because the way we see it is really people come on Voggt not because they have a need, but more because they want to discover, they want to have fun, they don't exactly know what they want, but they just want to share their hobby. So they go and it's very similar to, you and your friend going on a Saturday afternoon to the shopping street of the, city center and just, going window shopping. You don't necessarily need anything, but you want something, right? You don't need, but you want. You want something, just don't know what it is, right? And so I think this is was one of the starting point is, how do we bring back emotion in the purchase funnel, right? How do you have people going back to this shopping experience that was kind of broken online and like completely broken online and even like was put at a stop during the COVID period and all the lockdowns, right? People were not able to gather, they were not able to go outside together, to visit shop, to interact with shop owners, etc. And this is kind of something that we brought back, because you really have, it's all about the interaction. You don't have people who just come, you have some people who come to buy, but just to buy and not talk to anyone. But most of them actually want to, talk with the people and talk to the seller, and who you're buying from, why, like, where did he get the item from? Like, again, like you can ask, all of these kind of things, and it creates a bond between sellers and buyers. And that's something that's really, really powerful in the model, I think.
Mm-hmm. Just what I love about your model is that, and always about all these like new models and when you look at, because what you do is just you combine things that are already there, and the combination then creates a complete new business model, right?
Exactly.
Because when I look at your CV and your background, it's like, I mean, you've been with Jumia a long time, you work for Mano Mano, so you also have a very strong marketplace experience in your professional life.
I love marketplaces.
And then but still, and that's what would be my next question, is like how you start something like that, because as we know, when you have a marketplace, you have to balance demand and supply. So how did you pull this one off to bring people actually on the platform to start selling stuff?
So that's a very good question. Like the cold start problem. Like how do you start a marketplace, right? So I mean this is why we went with the community aspect of things, and this is where it's so important is. If I'm opening a website, like regular website, I need to have a lot of assortment and I need to bring actually a lot of people to have like sales, right? And for the value proposition to be true, if you open a regular marketplace like Mano Mano or Jumia, from a customer standpoint, you need to have a lot of assortment. Otherwise, the customer will not find what he wants. Then the value proposition, which is I have infinite assortment, doesn't work. And for the seller, if you don't have a lot of traffic, he's not going to make sales. So the value proposition doesn't really hold. While on the live shopping and the community aspect of things, we have this fun part, which is really part of the value proposition, which makes that if you have a live with one seller and 5 people on the other side, you can still have a very good moment and everybody can have fun and you can still make some sales and everybody's happy after like 1 hour of live. Right? So that's the value proposition, and that was very important to us, that the value proposition we offer is like true from day one, whether you have 100 lives with 1 million people or just one live with 5 people. And so the way we started it was just recruiting the first seller. So the first, this early adopter who says, okay, I don't know you, I don't know anything about your platform, but it sounds cool, so let's try it. And it's the same, the first, 5 to 10 people who were like, who want to try a new platform. And the way we did it was very manual. We went on Facebook groups, where you have in French, you have a lot of Facebook groups around Pokemon cards. And we just, direct message people and say, okay, I'm launching this project. What do you think? Do you want to try it? Yeah, you don't risk anything. You just create an account. Worst case, you don't like it, but just come and try it. We're just, we want to try something. And so I remember very well the first live. We were the 3 founders watching it, very stressed. Is it going to work? Is it going to crash?
Yeah.
And it was like this seller launching product. He did probably like 6 or 7 sales. There was, I think, 10 people in the show. Probably, 7 of which were either us, the 3 founders, or friends. So like not really. But we had like these two first customers, and they bought things and they just trusted us. And so we did like, 30 euros worth of sales, but everybody was happy because it was the launch of something. So like people, when they start, they just, they want to support. They are early adopters. And this is how we started. And then what was very, very interesting is that people who were watching the shows, like then started to talk to other about, that's cool, you should try it. And then because they were seeing that it was easy to sell and a fun experience, a lot of people asked to become sellers. And so this, like the flywheel started like this, and we had a lot of very, very, very fast, a lot of sellers were actually coming from the viewers, and it started, rolling like this.
Okay, and then you just concentric, like
exactly.
It started to grow, and then obviously then when you interact with human beings, they have other stuff in their cupboards, right? They collect other stuff, and then they actually was then the next assortment was then coming from the community, or you just figure it out by yourself?
So I would say that we had a hint that we would do other trading card games, which makes sense. I mean, you have Pokemon, but you have a lot of others. But it was a bit coming from the community saying, "Oh, why don't you? Can I sell Yu-Gi-Oh card? Can I sell Magic cards or this kind of thing?" So this was very organic. Then the move to going to very different categories like sneakers or fashion was more of something that we decided. But like starting from the same, starting point, which is the experience that we currently offer of live shopping and auction live shopping is actually very cool. People really enjoy it. And there are other spaces where people are passionate, right? So sneakers, they're passionate about sneakers. They're passionate about fashion. So why don't we try the same way? Like, let's put the product in the hands of the people and see, do they like it or not? And actually they started liking it. And so we had like this rolling, this flywheel that started.
Mm-hmm. So and the sellers on your platform, I mean, as you mentioned, they also on Facebook or Instagram, or so they do have also a crowd following them, but they create another movement on your platform, or is that overlapping?
So
or how does
I would say it's again it depends on the sellers. So you have sellers that have a community. They have a community on YouTube, they have a community on Instagram or whatever, and so they bring part of their community on Voggt, and then they build their core audience from Instagram will come, and then you have sellers who are actually just building a follow-up and a following on Voggt. So people who don't have any community, they just know how to talk, they are entertaining, and they know how to source products. So they start just selling, and then they have people starting following them, and then they become bigger and bigger on the platform. And I think some of our biggest like sellers in terms of followers on the platform are not really famous people. They don't even have an Instagram, some of them, or they have a personal one. But it's just that they invest so much on the platform in terms of times, in terms of concept, in terms of building the relationship with the audience, that they end up building a very large audience of thousands of followers. So it really depends, I think.
Yeah, and how do you just run the schedule? Is that run by the seller, or is there like you also like initiate, like if there is this big whatever World Cup evening show, or like selling soccer shoes or anything like that, or is it coming also from the community?
Let's say there are two levels. We really see ourselves as a platform, so we don't want to constrain people. So you want to go live at 3 a.m. in the morning doing like selling cards, it's your choice, right? We're your platform. We're a platform for you, so you can go whenever you want, for how long you want. You want to do a show for 30 minutes, you can do it. You want to do a show for 52 hours, like the longest show I think is 52 or 53 hours. that's your choice, right? If you want to put yourself a challenge and do like 100 hours of shows or whatever, it's really your choice. So in that sense, we see ourselves really as a platform like Instagram, like YouTube, like Twitch, where people can take the platform and use it as they want, as long as they respect the rules of like sell right items, don't sell counterfeit, respecting people, etc., etc. They can do they have total freedom. And then on top of that, we are trying also to spur new concepts, spur activations, because we want to help the seller grow. So and we want to acquire new customers, etc. So sometimes we'll do a campaign around we'll do Black Friday, or we'll do a campaign around our anniversary that's going to come up in a month and a half, or we're going to do I don't know, Japanese cards. We did this in Pokemon, or like in trading card games, saying okay, this next two days we're going to push a lot of Japan cards shows, and so we ask the community of sellers, do you want to be part of it? Are you able to put a right show, like a good content? And then they do it, and then it works also well, because sellers like this feeling of being with other sellers, trying to do this kind of event. So I think it's, as a platform, we really want to put the tool in the hands of everyone, and then we want to spur activation here and there to create a bit of more fun again, and more activations for the people and reason to come in.
But I can imagine that, like, for you as the owner and operator of the platform, that you have to also manage traffic and I don't know, streaming power. So if everybody starts the live stream, I mean, maybe probably at the very beginning at the same time, then maybe you might have an infrastructure problem, right?
Yeah, that's always the big complexity. The interesting thing in infrastructure is, today with all the platform, the Googles, Google Cloud, AWS, etc., it's very flexible, and we have a good team to really scale this. But it's definitely something that I think the most difficult thing is when you have unplanned spike. As you said, let's say sometimes you have someone that you don't know that might be a big influencer and just comes on the platform and do something very big, and it's in the middle of the night and you don't know about it. Then that's obviously hard to monitor, but most of the time it actually goes pretty smoothly, because we try to anticipate, and we have shows that where we expect that there's going to be a spike in traffic. We try to anticipate as much as possible, scale the servers, and so it runs smoothly. But
yeah. So and your business model is that you have a take rate from the seller. Or,
exactly. Today we take a commission from the sellers.
Okay.
Because this is the part of the community where we bring the most value, since we bring the traffic, etc. And this is how we build it as a regular marketplace. It's something that people actually are quite used to.
Yeah. So, but in the future to come, you're also is that retail media that you can whatever
it's always
use your platform?
I think it's always hard to know what the future holds, but the way I would see it is we want to bring more value to the users and to the sellers, and some of the value we're gonna bring is gonna be free, and some of the value is gonna be to pay for, right? So it can be a lot of things. It could be pay for traffic. It could be analytics, like shipping services, a lot of things that today we don't do, that we might do and want to make profitable out of it. This is usually the way that marketplaces operate, right? They start with a very simple, and that's also what's very important to us today, is there is no hidden fee. It's a fixed, it's a fee, how much it is, and that's clear. But in the future there might be a lot of things, a lot of ways to monetize. But I think the motto we really want to follow is we want to make sure that whatever we monetize is actually bringing more value to the user who is paying for, and not putting just a paywall for a paywall, because that wouldn't make sense for the users.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at Amazon, and I know, very successful company, of course, but it's everything for everyone is a very difficult positioning from my point of view. And as you mentioned, it's you go there, you know what you want, click one click, you have it. But and you mentioned Mano Mano, and from my perspective, it's a very curated marketplace. So how do you see curation? Because when I go to Amazon, I always I get all the Chinese stuff. Then I don't get what is best rated. I get what the products from the highest bidder on the marketplace. So because you mentioned the customer user experience. So how do you think how valuable is curation from the user point of view?
That's a very, very interesting question. To go back on the Mano Mano experience, it's interesting. They made the choice of being very curated in the sense that they don't have a lot of sellers. They're very tough on the sellers they bring in, but they try to get the seller with the biggest assortment, the best price, etc. Which is something very interesting for like static marketplace. For us, I think the caveat versus what we do is we want to empower everyone to become a seller and a streamer, and to have fun with the community, because we don't want to just limit it to professional or limit it to people with large assortment. Otherwise, it would be probably a too small of a business, and it's not really the mission that we want. We want really to allow passionate people and enthusiasts to really go for share their passion, whether they want to make a business out of it, whether they want just to do one live per month, every 2 months, just to make a bit of money that they can reinject in the collection or in their passion. So that's more of our vision compared to Mano, where actually you have few very, very, very large sellers, and you just keep them, and that's enough to do the business. So that's a bit of the difference. But to go back to your point on curation, I think the way forward for us, and that is a big of a challenge, but super interesting, and this is why we have a data team to work on that, is how do we match the right show for the right person? So how do I know that you're interested in, like Nike sweatshirts from the 80s in only black and XL? And so this is something that we're trying to build, and we are iterating on that, because we have a lot of information compared to a regular marketplace. Because if you enter a show, we can know, like, did you stay a long time in the show? Did you interact with the seller, with the other people? Did you send an emoji? Did you try to buy? Did you buy? All these kind of things. And the more we'll go, the more we'll have to make something out of this data to make sure that when you open the app, you have something that makes sense for you and for the state of mind you're in. Like, if you're just someone who actually is not coming really often to buy, but rather to have fun, then we should push you the shows that are the funnier, even though they don't have the product that are interesting, but that are the funniest for you, right? So this is it's going to be a challenge. It's something that we are currently working on, but I think this is how we see curation. So it's more of matching off. Like for us, it's rather than everybody can sell, as long again they respect the rules and they are fair and they are professional in the way they act, and they don't they don't destroy the experience or the trust. But as long as they respect the rule, everybody can sell, and then it's just a matter of matching the right people, the right audience with the right seller. Because again, a small audience with the seller can be enough for the seller to make enough sales and have a good time, which is the most important.
Mm-hmm. Have you any fun stories about any live auctions, like I don't know, the most valuable product, or the most craziest auction, or anything?
Oh yeah, I have plenty. I have plenty of the stories. I think so. The most valuable product, if I recall well, is a Pokemon card that went for, I think, 7.5k euro. So okay. It was a very rare card that's starting in a €1 starting price, and the seller just took the risk and say, okay, you decide the price, like, let's go. And that's super cool. And the thing is, the auctions then, last very long, because at the end, people are just bidding €1 by €1 just to, outbid the other, just to win, like the guy who's going to be, tire out the other. So that, I think, is that's the biggest auction. It's not a funny story, but it's something that I really like to point out, is that we have a couple of sellers that were people that were not professional, and that just because of Voggt and thanks to Voggt, they are now professional and now are able to live off their passion, which is selling Pokemon. And I have a story of a seller that I know quite well, who was a truck driver. He got injured, so he was not working anymore, and he said, okay, I love Pokemon, I tried to open my website, and he opened the website, and at the same time he discovered us, so he said, okay, let's try Voggt on the same time. And he was super resilient, so he was starting shows, he had 5 people launching auction, no one was bidding, but just he would do it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and at the end, after 3 hours of being alone talking in front of his camera, he would have 20 people and start selling. And now he's one of our best sellers. And he's professional, and he's really paying his bills through what he does on Voggt, and that, I think, is the kind of story that I really like. And this is what why we wake up every morning, is because we want to have this platform where people can grow their passion and grow their business, and that, I think, is a nice story that I like to tell.
Yeah, I love that, and it's I mean, I've tried your platform, and I went for the sneaker shows, and nice. And it actually sucks you in, and so cool. And And I think from my point of view, you don't have to be in front of the camera, but if you like it, you can do it. But otherwise, you can also just, show the products and talk, right?
And that I think was really one of the strengths of the model from the day one, is that even shy people could do it. Like, they don't need to show themselves. And actually, it was only after 6 or 7 months of operation that we started having people showing their face. We didn't even know it was possible at the beginning. From our standpoint, we had no clue, right? So we had developed something that was really focused on the phone, and it's because the important thing was the product, right? At the beginning, when they started, it's like you show the cards and people are here for the cards and to know about the cards, and that I think helped a lot the first sellers to start, because they were maybe shy, or they might not dare doing it. So it went like this, and then we started having people trying to differentiate from each other, saying, okay, I want to do more, so I want to show my face. And then it's, okay, I want to show my face, but I want to do animations, and I will have games, and I will have this and that, and then you bring more and more concept into the lives. But what I love about it is it's coming from the people. It's coming from the sellers. It's not us telling us, oh, you should show your face. No, it's one seller calling me and say, I want to show my face. I'm used to Twitch and I want to do the same. Like, can I do it? I want to do animation. Can I do it? So yeah, of course you can do it. Like, try to do it. And that's the strength of the model. It's like people they get empowered and they feel like they can, try to make the most out of it. So.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, one question I have to ask is a bit like, how do you go with counterfeits or like false products? It's like, is there any like service or how you do it? Did you trust in the community, or is like a bit like eBay started off in the very first place?
Yeah. So I think this is the way we approach it. Is really we try to trust the community. So there are two things. The way the payment works on the platform is like you pay through Voggt. And so the money is held on escrow until the product is either shipped, if it's a seller we really trust, or either delivered. And by doing so, we kind of ensure that the seller is doing the right thing, right? Because you're mentioning counterfeit, but you also have the risk of the seller not sending the product or sending the wrong product. Or, like, all these kind of things are kind of nullified by the fact that we keep the money and we make sure that that is actually delivered and that the customer doesn't come back to us, right? So that's one of the first part of how we build trust and how do we create a safe environment for the community. The second thing is also that we started with Pokemon cards, where actually there are not so many counterfeit, at least not really in France and in Germany. It's something that you have more that you might have more in the English version of cards, on all cards, but it's also something that people are really easily finding out. And when you put yourself in front of the camera and you have your voice, and even if it's just your hands, and you start setting fakes in front of 10 or 15 or 100 people that actually know about the product, you don't last very long. So like after 5 minutes, we receive a call from a customer and the live ends because we know it. So people who don't really take the risk. And then we have all the after sales team that is actually, if you receive something you suspect of being a fake, you just send a ticket. We ask you for a picture, we look at it, we ask for experts, etc., and then we try to find a solution to make sure that everything is run smoothly. But to be fairly honest, we don't have so many cases, and I think it's because the community is relatively healthy. It's also like letting us know when there is these kind of issues, and we have a very strong support team to back up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I think I was just smiling because I think there was also the where you could buy, when it comes to sneakers, like these Yeezys, and they were fake Yeezys. They called them feezies I think in the school backyard of my kids. So actually, everybody was not in the position to actually buy the original ones. So there was a hype about the fake ones. So, and then the prices climbed as well. So pretty funny. But
I'm sorry, I'm getting kicked out of the room where I'm in. Can we pause for like 2 minutes or?
Yeah, we can. I just let it run.
Okay, let it run. I'm just gonna get to another room. Very sorry for that. It was supposed to be booked, but. Sorry, Sven.
No problem.
Okay, I am back on track. Putting my camera so you can see me. Here we are. Sorry for that.
No problem.
Pleasure of the co-working space.
Yeah, so I have the post-production team has to do some work. It's okay.
Sorry.
All right. No. I mean, that's why they are here for. So, I would like to have a look at the complexity of the business model as well, and also like the financing side.
Of course.
Because what you described is like it's very infrastructure heavy, at least from when you want to grow, and then you have the marketplace issue, balancing supply demand side. Then you also mentioned the internationalization. So like, what's your like growth strategy? Like, is it more around product or is it more about geographies? Can you dwell on that?
The real focus, like, so we have these 5 countries now. The focus is to stay on these 5 countries, not really opening new geographies. And it's more going deeper into the categories we are in. Our feeling is we're just scratching the surface of these categories. When I talked about fashion, we launched fashion at the end of last year and only in France really right now. Sneakers, it was launched a bit earlier, like in Q3 last year, like end of Q3 last year. And again, it's like a super, super big market in all of our countries. So and I'm not talking about like trading card games or sports cards where it's also just scratching the surface. So we don't want to necessarily open more categories in the near future. We just want to get better in the ones we are in. Because we start having the supply, and then the supply is driving a bit of demand, and then it's like you were talking about circles. Is how do we expand to people that are maybe less engaged in the hobby but that are still interested in the hobby, and that's really the growth strategy, is to get like going deeper and bigger in these categories, which are limitless categories. Like if you think about fashion is like probably the biggest market, like one of the biggest market in Europe. So it's a category that you can bring so much value to.
So, but that's like luxury fashion then, or is it like, and then it's more like used stuff, like
exactly?
It's
second-hand fashion, and then we're not really going after luxury for the moment. It's more around like vintage clothing, but 90s, 80s, 90s, like year 2K, these kind of categories for like young people that really like it. And there's also like more modern stuff that we're selling. So it's similar to a vintage kind of audience, let's say. And this is what we're going for. And then once this is going to be big enough, probably we're going to, again, the community will probably ask like, can I sell bags? Can I sell I want to try selling high value items. The only thing with very high value items is what you were mentioning about counterfeits. Today we want to stay as asset light as we can, in the sense that we don't want to build a very big counterfeit fighting team that would review, authenticate every product, because that's very heavy and that goes against this will of empowering people. So I think we would rather focus on more mainstream products that are less victim of that, and there are still a big market, and then probably would go up and again, because the experience actually makes sense, like the video experience makes sense for everyone. So.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, and when you look at the geographical expansion, is it like a playbook? Like any market is more or less the same? Like you approach it in the same way? You just go into Facebook groups, you say like, hey, we are there, you want to try live shopping with us, or is it different because like there's different taste in the market and different products that go well better than others? I
would say yes and no. So part of the market are like similarly structured, as you said, like with Facebook groups, with influencers, with like this micro community. Then in the way to approach them, like we're learning, and the product is also improving. Like the product we had in September when we launched Germany is very different from the product we had when we launched the company, right? And fortunately so, because after a year and a half of development, obviously it had to be a bit different. So you can also you can also go faster, right? So the way to approach it was really you focus on kind of finding the right supply and the people that can bring a bit of audience at the beginning. You put a bit of influence, a bit of marketing, and try to make this this flywheel kicking in, and then it goes then it goes, and then it's improvement by finding the right people to influence, finding the right creatives for marketing. The method is kind of the same, but obviously like everything goes a bit faster. Like it was faster to launch Spain than it was to launch the UK because we had 6 months more of experience. But then you still have every market, and I think that's actually the challenge of Europe, but also something a complexity that we really want to embrace and that we really love is that every country is still a different country. It's not like one single market, so community can tend to react a bit differently to things, or more, some, I don't know, in the UK for example, people really love doing some kind of gamification of the life where you have like wheels and you can win things, etc. Well, it's something that, I don't know, in Germany people really don't like, or in France people really don't like mystery packs, for instance. So it's very different, right? So you can't really copy paste everything. So this is always a learning, and this is why we always have local teams. Because what's very important also to us is that we speak to the people in their language, in the sense that, and when I mean language is, yes, we want to speak to German sellers or customers in German, but it's also understanding them, their the local culture, the local preferences, and the local ecosystem. So we have these local teams in every of our countries.
Sitting in the country or in Paris?
No, it's sitting in the countries. That's something that I got from my past experience. So at Jumia we had 13 countries. Every country was like kind of independent with a central team. At Mano Mano it was 6 countries, but everyone was in Paris. And so both have like pros and cons. But one of, I think, the biggest cons of having everyone sitting in Paris is that first you're a bit far from the market. Like really, if you want to meet the community, if you want to talk to them physically, which is something for us that is actually quite important, because people really value the fact that there is an office where they can go to and they can have a drink and they can actually meet. So that's something you can't do if everyone is in Paris. And the second thing is also from a recruitment standpoint, it's like extremely hard to find. It's always extremely hard to find good people as a whole, because you want the best people to work with you. But if you add to this, I want the best Germans who live in Paris, I want the best Spanish. It's even harder, right? So it's not something that you want.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, like the journey you started with the 2 co-founders, right?
Yes.
Did you take on any money, any venture capital or outside money, or just finance it all by yourself? Because it sounds like a really long stretchy goal.
Yes. So we started without money. We went the MVP route, or let's do this, let's see how it works, let's iterate as fast as possible, and then we were able to raise money. So we raised twice with US and French venture capital and a couple dozen of business angels. It's something we don't really communicate about, because we think that it's not really something that the community cares about, and it's something that kind of like for us, and we want to really be focusing on what we do rather than spending hours doing press release about fundraise. So it's something we have not really communicated. So this is why you don't really find any information about it. But yes, we like raising funds. So we raised at the end of 2021, and then in mid 2022, that really helped us spur this growth, sustain this growth, build the team, build the product, which I think is at the end of the day the most important, and build also these local teams that were telling you about, this support team that is so important into the execution of our product.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think sometimes it feels like it's a bit like la pour la, right? For some founders, they say I raised money, and I feel like, yeah, well, great, but what about the product?
Exactly.
But it's in the end, money is an enabler, and for me, it's a fuel because without it, it takes longer. That's always the decision you have to make as a founder. Is like, if you don't take money in, you have to put in more time, and this is also can be a shortcut.
Exactly,
right?
And sometimes it's just, if you don't have the money, it's just not possible at all. Because sometimes you need to recruit people, and if you can't pay them, you don't necessarily have all the skills. When you're a founder, you're constantly learning about things. I was not doing marketing 2 years ago, and now I'm learning about it. It's extremely interesting. I'm learning every day, but sometimes you want help, right? So the money can give you that.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's difficult to look ahead a bit in these times, but what do you think where you will be ending up, like in 2025 or something like? Is it more like, is it all of Europe, or is it more categories, or is both?
So 2025, seems like an eternity to us. It's 2 years.
I know, to me as well.
But no, I think it's we want to build the global European, like the European leader. That's really clearly our vision, and like we're deeply rooted in Europe, and this is why we started our expansion so early in the company story. Like we could have stayed in France for another year, but we decided no, we want to learn as soon as possible what it takes to build a new European company. We want to have like international teams to like have this mix of cultures and from all over Europe, and so probably if I had to think about 2025, we'll probably be in more countries. I'm not going to say we want to be like in 27 countries. I don't think that's really makes sense. It's more like be smart and tactical about where can we bring value to communities. Where are these communities? I'm thinking about Italy, with Portugal, but maybe Poland. Like you have these countries that are actually that could be interested. So it's probably like going to these countries, Ireland, for instance, and then it's probably going to more categories. I'm not necessarily sure which ones, but I could say like there are a lot of, again, like when you think about what do people like and how do people spend their time in terms of shopping. You have estate sales that could be interesting. You have toys that could be interesting. Art is probably something.
I just got me this one.
Nice, a Funko one. Yeah, but we actually have we actually have a lot of Funko on the platform already. So it's just. But
it's so weird.
I think the way I would see it is, it's hard to tell you which categories we'll be in, because I feel like if we do the right product, if we keep on building the product for the community the way we do it, then category will come up by themselves, and there might be something that we have no clue about it. Like I don't know, like stamps, for instance. Stamps is a big category, but it looks like something very old. But maybe you have younger generation of people that will say, okay, I want to sell my stamp online in live because it's really much cooler, and I want to share my passion, etc. So I think a lot of things are going to come up, and
maybe luxury watches as well. I don't know.
Luxury watches. I think art. I think there is a big thing around art and for artists to when they launch a new collection, when they launch a new pieces of things. Like you don't really have a platform today where you can interact with the people who are actually following you, and that I think is what we really bring. If I'm a singer and I'm doing some merchandising that I want my fan to share, and I want to autograph them, I can do it and then sell on my website, but it's a bit boring, and I don't meet my fan elsewhere than on a concert. Well, actually, if you go on Voggt, then you can talk to the people and they can buy something from you, and create these specific these special links and bonds between the community and the artist. So I would pin something around like arts, but maybe not for a very, very near future, but probably if I have to think like in 3 years.
Yeah, that's what's super intriguing about what you guys accomplished so far and tried and still building, is that it's there's no real limits, right? Because you just it evolves from the community as you described.
Yeah, exactly, and even in the categories that already exist, like you can always go deeper and create more. There's really a content part and entertainment part of things, right? So when you think about opening a box of Pokemon cards, you have older boxes, you have then games, you can create things with gamification you were mentioning at the beginning, with badges, with like create all of the scenario around it, like who's going to win what, etc. Like battles, like people are actually very, very creative when you give them a tool and a framework, and that's what is super interesting and intriguing in what we do. Is we're actually learning from what people are doing every day, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, super. Thank you so much. I mean, and it's always one final question at the end here on my show is that if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and share an insight, and it's not about avoiding mistakes and placing the right bets at the stock market, but it's like an insight you learned over the years, which could have an interesting impact on maybe the quality of your decision making. Is there anything that comes up?
That's a very, very good question. I never thought about it. To be honest, I don't know what I would tell myself. So you tell myself like 10 years ago, right? When I was like fresh out of school.
Yeah, like you can choose like maybe and something you learned along the way, and you feel like some people say like you know, I don't know, there is always a tomorrow, the sun will always shine, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like something like that comes up, but yeah, it's always different. So
I think it would be probably something like this. Like when I say that there's always a tomorrow, it's more of like, yeah, don't take things so seriously. I'm always like very, very serious about what I do and very intense about what I do, which I think is somehow a quality, but sometimes it can be a bit, you know, stressful and a bit too much. But I don't really have any regrets or anything that I could have always have done a lot of things better and differently in the past. But I think in my career, when I look at it, I always, you know, let the opportunities kind of guide me. When I was at Jumia, when I entered Jumia, I was working in Paris, and I always thought to myself, I'm never going to go live in Africa. 2 years after, I was accepting a job in Egypt, and I moved to Egypt for a year and a half, and it was not really planned, you know. And then when I left Jumia, I said, okay, I want to stay in Paris. I want a stable job. I want I'm happy. I'm not going to build a company or whatever. This is not something I want. A year after, I was actually building my first and trying. So it's just because I have the opportunity, right? So it's not just maybe just the advice I would give myself about that is don't be so stressed about these decisions, because at some point, as you said, there was always a tomorrow. I was super stressed when I left for like Mano to build my first company, but actually it turned out to be something that I enjoy now. So it was not really, you know, what's the worst can happen. It's just
okay. Kevin, thank you so much for being on the ChefTreff show, and I'm like super excited that I had the opportunity, and I think everybody here listening to this podcast will be inspired. So thank you so much,
Thanks a lot, Sven.
and all the best for you.
The pleasure is mine. It was really, really nice meeting you.